Hannah Brewster's hands had killed a child in Chicago, or so the newspapers claimed. Now, stepping off the stage in Silver City, Idaho, she carried bandages hidden beneath silk petticoats and a secret that could hang her. Then the mine exploded, and suddenly, everyone wanted those blood-stained hands.
Hello, compliments of the season. If you love heartwarming stories about life in times past, then you'd enjoy these stories. Comment where you're watching from, like and share these videos with loved ones as you enjoy them. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel too. My team and I have something free and beautiful for you once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. It will be shared in the community. You know, we go to great lengths to make these videos, and your support means a lot to us. Therefore, we plan to give back to you once we are able to, so be a part of what we are building.
Hannah Brewster stepped off the stagecoach into Silver City, Idaho like she was stepping into a grave she had dug herself. Dust rose around her boots, fine and pale, clinging to the black traveling dress she wore like armor. The town sat in a bowl between mountains, small and raw, with wooden buildings that looked like they might blow away in a strong wind. It smelled of pine smoke and hard labor. It looked like the kind of place where a woman could disappear. The driver tossed her carpet bag down with a thud that made her heart jump. Hannah caught it before it hit the ground, her grip fierce and protective. It was heavier than it should be, weighted with things that could destroy her if anyone looked inside. A man stepped out of the timber office across the street, tall, solid through the chest and shoulders, with dark hair and a face weathered by mountain winters. He walked toward her with careful steps, like approaching something that might startle. "Miss Brewster?" he asked. His voice was deep, steady, the kind that did not waste words. Hannah lifted her chin. "Yes, Hannah Brewster from Chicago." "Aaron Bronson," he said. "Welcome to Silver City." He reached for her bag. Hannah pulled it back without thinking. The movement was sharp, instinctive, like protecting a wound. Aaron's eyebrows lifted slightly, questions forming in the silence. "It's heavy," he said simply. "I have it," Hannah replied. Her voice came out too quick, too hard. She forced a small smile. "I prefer to carry my own things." Aaron studied her for a moment longer. Hannah felt his gaze like a hand reading the truth written on her skin. He was measuring her trembling fingers, the quality of her worn dress, the way she held that bag like it contained her life. Morning came cold and bright, with the sound of saws biting through timber echoing off the mountains. Hannah dressed in a simple gray dress and pinned her dark hair into a modest bun. She looked like what she claimed to be, a seamstress seeking a quiet life. The lie sat heavy in her chest. Aaron knocked and led her down into Silver City's main street. The town was small but alive with purpose. Miners headed toward the Poorman mine entrance carved into the mountain's face. Women hung washing on lines strung between buildings. Children chased each other through the dust. "This is Roland Jessup," Aaron said, introducing a stern-faced man in a fine vest. "He runs the mining operations." Jessup's handshake was firm, assessing. "Welcome, Miss Brewster. We don't get many Eastern ladies out here." A young girl appeared at Jessup's side, maybe 12, with sharp eyes and her father's serious expression. "This is my daughter, Iris," Jessup said. Hannah smiled, but her attention caught on the mining camp visible beyond the main street. Rows of rough barracks, men living too close together, conditions that made her nurse's mind scream warnings about disease spread. "And this is Dr. Josiah Caldwell," Aaron continued, gesturing to an elderly man emerging from a small office. The doctor's hands trembled noticeably as he tipped his hat. Hannah saw it at once, recognized the tremor of age or illness, saw the fear behind his polite smile. He was failing, and he knew it. "Pleasure, Miss Brewster," Caldwell said. "If you ever need medical attention—" "I'm sure I won't. I'm quite healthy." Aaron gave her a curious look, but said nothing. That afternoon, a small boy with bright eyes ran up and pressed wildflowers into Hannah's hands. "I'm Timothy. Uncle Aaron says you're staying." Hannah looked down at the child's trusting face and felt her heart crack open. 3 weeks passed in careful distance. Aaron was patient, kind, asking nothing beyond conversation and shared meals. Hannah almost believed she could build a life on lies. Then Sunday morning shattered like glass. The explosion tore through the valley with a sound that rattled teeth. Hannah was walking back from the general store when the ground shook beneath her feet. The church bell began clanging wild and desperate. Screams rose from the direction of the poor man mine. People ran toward the chaos. Hannah's feet moved before her mind could stop them. She dropped her parcels and ran with her skirts gathered high, her heart pounding with the old rhythm of emergency. The mine entrance had collapsed. Timber supports jutted out like broken bones. Men emerged from the dust and smoke, dragging bodies behind them. Blood streaked the ground. The air filled with groaning and desperate shouts. A miner stumbled forward, supporting another man whose leg bent at an impossible angle, white bone visible through torn flesh. The injured man made sounds that barely seemed human. Dr. Caldwell arrived, his medical bag clutched in trembling hands. His face went white as he took in the carnage. There were too many, far too many. Hannah saw a man collapse, clutching his chest, blood frothing at his lips. Punctured lung. Without treatment, he would drown in his own blood within minutes. Dr. Caldwell knelt beside him, hands shaking so badly he could not open his bag. Hannah stopped thinking. Her body remembered what her mind tried to forget. She dropped to her knees, tore the hem of her skirt where she had sewn gauze into the fabric, and barked orders with a voice she had buried in Chicago. "Get me whiskey, clean water, and the sharpest knife you can find, now!" Will Hannah's secret destroy her chance at a new life, or will it save an entire town? Subscribe to find out what happens when the past catches up in Silver City. The Lucky Strike Saloon became a field hospital in minutes. Tables were cleared, whiskey bottles lined up, sheets torn into bandages. Hannah moved through the chaos like a force of nature, her hands steady and sure. She performed needle decompression on the man with the punctured lung, using a hollow reed and a sterilized knife. Air hissed out and his breathing eased. The crowd watching gasped and crossed themselves. "Bring the leg fracture here," Hannah commanded, pointing to a cleared table. "I need 4 strong men to hold him down." She set 17 broken bones that day, stitched torn scalps, stopped hemorrhages with pressure and makeshift clamps. She directed volunteers like soldiers, her voice cutting through panic with surgical precision. Dr. Caldwell watched in stunned silence, then quietly began assisting, following her lead without question. His trembling hands found purpose in the simpler tasks she assigned him. Aaron appeared in the doorway, covered in mine dust from helping dig out survivors. He froze when he saw her. This was not the quiet seamstress he had brought to Silver City. This was someone else entirely, someone who knew exactly how to cut into flesh and save lives. When the last man was stabilized and the screaming faded to exhausted groans, Hannah finally straightened. Her gray dress was soaked dark with blood. Her hair had fallen loose around her shoulders. Her hands were stained red but perfectly steady. The saloon went dead silent, 50 pairs of eyes fixed on her. Roland Jessup stepped forward, his face hard with suspicion and something that might have been fear. "Who are you really, Miss Brewster?" he asked, voice carrying to every corner. "Seamstresses don't perform surgery." Hannah's throat closed. She felt the weight of every secret pressing down on her chest. She could run again, disappear into the mountains, but her feet would not move. "I was a nurse in Chicago. I came here to disappear." Aaron's timber office smelled of pine and sawdust. Hannah stood by the window, unable to meet his eyes. The silence between them felt like a living thing, heavy and suffocating. "You lied to me," Aaron said finally. His voice was quiet, controlled, but she heard the anger underneath. From the first word, Hannah's hands twisted together. "Yes." Why? The single word carried the weight of betrayal. She forced herself to look at him. "A child died in my care. A girl named Eleanor Hartwell, 7 years old, from a wealthy family. She had diphtheria. By the time they called for help, she was already dying. I did everything right, but it wasn't enough. Her voice cracked. Her parents needed someone to blame. I was convenient, female, expendable. Aaron's jaw tightened. Did you do something wrong? No, Hannah whispered, but it didn't matter. Outside, voices rose in heated debate. Through the window, Hannah could see the town gathering. Miners whose lives she had saved stood beside their wives. Roland Jessup argued with Dr. Caldwell in the street. Caldwell's reedy voice carried, "Without her, we would be burying 17 men tonight. My hands are failing. I've been hiding it for 2 years. This town needs more than I can give alone." Jessup's response was sharp. "She's unlicensed, a fugitive possibly." "She's skilled," Caldwell shot back, "and she's here." The town council convened in the church within the hour. Hannah stood before them like a woman on trial. They voted to allow her to work under Dr. Caldwell's supervision. Conditional acceptance, grudging and uncertain. When Hannah emerged, Aaron waited outside. He did not reach for her hand, did not smile, but he walked beside her through the watching crowd. "I need time," he said quietly, "to understand who you really are." Hannah nodded, throat tight. "I understand." But at least she was still standing. 2 weeks passed in careful cooperation. Hannah worked beside Dr. Caldwell, treating injuries and common ailments. The time remained wary, grateful but distant. Aaron kept his distance too, polite but guarded. Then, a child at the mining barracks developed fever. Hannah examined the boy and felt ice flood her veins. The gray membrane forming across his throat was unmistakable. Diphtheria. The disease that had destroyed her life. More cases appeared within days. 3 children at the boarding house, 2 at the schoolhouse, a miner's daughter who slept in the crowded barracks where families lived too close together, sharing air and sickness. Hannah's hands shook as she examined the 4th child. Memories crashed over her. Eleanor Hartwell's gray face, the mother's screams, the newspapers calling her a killer. "Miss Brewster," Dr. Caldwell touched her shoulder. "What is it?" "This," Hannah whispered. "This is what killed the child in Chicago. This is why they destroyed me." But there was no time for fear. She implemented quarantine protocols with iron determination. Sick children separated from healthy ones. Contaminated bedding burned in massive fires behind the church. No visitors allowed. Even desperate parents kept at a distance. The town erupted in anger. Mrs. Dutch from the boarding house screamed that Hannah was cruel and heartless. Mothers wept outside the quarantine house, begging to hold their dying children. Roland Jessup confronted her in the street. "You're tearing families apart." "I'm keeping this from spreading to every child in Silver City," Hannah said, her voice hard as stone. "You can hate me for it, but I will not watch this town's children die because parents need comfort more than their children need to live." Aaron watched from across the street, his face unreadable. Hannah faces her worst nightmare again, but this time an innocent child's life hangs in the balance. Subscribe to see if she can save him, or if history will repeat itself. The knock came at midnight. Aaron's brother stood at the clinic door, wild-eyed with terror. "It's Timothy. He can't breathe." Hannah ran through the dark streets, her medical bag clutched tight. Inside the small house, 6-year-old Timothy lay struggling for air, his lips turning blue. The gray membrane had spread across his entire throat. Dr. Caldwell examined him with shaking hands. "The airway is blocked. He'll suffocate within the hour." Hannah knew what had to be done. Emergency tracheotomy. Cut into the child's throat, insert a tube to bypass the obstruction. She had done it before. In Chicago, on Eleanor Hartwell, the child who died anyway. Hannah's hands started trembling. The room tilted. She saw Eleanor's face instead of Timothy's, heard the mother's accusations instead of the family's desperate pleas. "Hannah," Aaron's voice cut through the fog. He gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "I don't care what happened in Chicago. Timothy is dying right now, right now." His storm gray eyes held hers with absolute certainty. "Be who you are," Something inside Hannah steadied. She met his gaze and saw what she had never had before. Trust. Complete, unwavering trust from someone who knew the truth. Her hands stopped shaking. "Boil water," she commanded. "Dr. Caldwell, I need your sharpest scalpel. Aaron, hold the lamp steady." She made the incision with precision, her movements sure and clean. The blade cut through skin and tissue. She inserted the hollow tube and heard the rush of air flowing freely. Timothy's chest rose. His color returned from blue to pale pink. His mother sobbed. His father collapsed against the wall. Aaron's hand found Hannah's shoulder, squeezing once. When she looked up, tears streamed down his face. "You saved him," he whispered. Hannah held Timothy as his breathing steadied, her own tears falling silent and free. The telegram arrived 3 days later at the Silver City post office. The clerk brought it to Hannah with worried eyes. "Dr. Horace Sinclair, en route from Chicago, stop. Legal authority to arrest Hannah Brewster, stop. Charges of criminal negligence and unauthorized practice, stop. Arrival expected Thursday, stop." Hannah read it twice, the paper trembling in her hands. Her past had found her again. Dr. Sinclair stepped off the Thursday stage in an Eastern suit, leather medical bag in hand, superiority carved into every line of his face. He carried official papers, newspaper clippings, and the weight of Chicago's wealthy families behind him. The town council convened in the church. Hannah stood before them as Sinclair read the charges in a voice that echoed off the wooden walls. "Hannah Brewster caused the death of Eleanor Hartwell, age 7, through negligence and incompetence. She administered incorrect treatments, failed to follow proper protocols, and subsequently fled legal prosecution to avoid consequences." Faces in the crowd shifted. Doubt crept back into eyes that had watched her save Timothy. Roland Jessup's expression darkened with uncertainty. Hannah felt the ground crumbling beneath her feet. She had saved 17 minors, stopped a diphtheria outbreak, performed miracles with steady hands. None of it mattered. Chicago's shadow was too long. Then Dr. Caldwell rose, his hands trembling but his voice sharp as a blade. "I have evidence," he announced, pulling papers from his own bag. "Letters from Chicago nurses, patient records, timeline documentation." He held up the pages like weapons. The Hartwell family waited 8 hours before seeking medical help. They believed prayer would be sufficient. Eleanor was already dying when Miss Brewster arrived. No nurse, no doctor could have saved her. Caldwell's voice shook with fury. These families needed a scapegoat. A woman made an easy target. The church fell silent as Dr. Caldwell spread the evidence across the council table. Letters from Chicago nurses testified in Hannah's defense. Miss Brewster followed every protocol. The family's 8-hour delay killed their daughter, not her care. Patient records showed Hannah had administered correct treatments, performed the tracheotomy precisely according to medical standards, fought for hours to save Eleanor's life. The delay was fatal. No amount of skill could have overcome it. Dr. Sinclair's confidence cracked. "I was hired by the Hartwell family to silence the truth," Caldwell cut in, "to chase away the woman who exposed their guilt." Roland Jessup stood, his daughter Iris beside him, healthy and alive because of Hannah's quarantine protocols. "Silver City recognizes Hannah Brewster as medical practitioner under Dr. Caldwell's authority," he declared. "Our children breathe because of her. Anyone who disputes this answers to me." The council voted unanimously in her favor. Sinclair left on the next stage. His mission failed, his papers worthless against the truth. Outside, Hannah stood in the mountain air, breathing freely for the first time in months. Aaron found her there, the setting sun painting the peaks gold. "I asked you to marry me when I thought you were someone else," he said quietly. "I'm asking again now that I know who you really are." Hannah turned, tears in her eyes. A disgraced nurse with a ruined name? Aaron smiled, taking her hand. "A doctor who saved my nephew in this entire town. Hannah Brewster, "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered. Their wedding filled the church weeks later. Timothy stood as ring bearer, fully recovered. Hannah's medical supplies no longer hid in shadows, but sat openly in the new clinic. She had come to Silver City to vanish. The truth had dragged her into the light, and the town chose her anyway. From scandal to salvation, Hannah found redemption where she least expected it. Subscribe for more untold stories of courage from the Old West.
If you enjoyed this latest story on life in the Old Wild West, then I'm sure you will love the next one coming up. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on time. Did I tell you we post new, exciting, heartwarming stories daily? Subscribe now to join us so you won't miss any new stories.